Can we get a cup of coffee in here, please?
Damn good coffee. And hot.
Yeah, hot coffee. Yay. Yay, hot coffee. Where's my volume at? Good morning, folks. It is Monday. You love Monday? What's wrong with you? I don't even love Monday. And I'm not a regular working guy, I guess. But Monday's not my cup of tea. My cup of coffee. Good morning. It is Monday, August 15th, 2022. And I got the big C. No, not the big C. I guess the little C. I got COVID again. But I'm going to be isolating this week. I have gigs that need to be canceled. I'm going to hope to make the gig on Friday night. Hopefully, if I'm testing as negative by Thursday, the gig on Friday will happen. So that's it. That's it. Goodbye. No, we are we are planning on doing a mini podathon for Christine, who has the big C, cancer. Oh, I hate even saying the word. We'll just call it the big C. And that will be Saturday. Now I had planned to do it Sunday. Carl suggested that Saturday would be a better day for lots of reasons, and I said, you know what? You're probably right. I don't know why I came up with Sunday. Sunday just seemed like a day where people would be not doing nothing and just on social media and would like a break from the endless scrolling just to join a podcast. That's what my thought. But it also might be true on Saturday. Although for me and for a lot of people I know, Saturday is a more active day. I don't have a gig, as it turns out, this Saturday. Did, but it got canceled and long before I found out that I had COVID. So Saturday works for me. So we'll be doing it Saturday, 8 a.m. Eastern to 8 p.m. Eastern. Um, as it turns out, with the COVID yesterday, I was just dead tired and did nothing to secure guests or work on. I was just shot. Really not here mentally, physically, or all that stuff. Still feeling very kind of um, tired and weak today. Hopefully, it'll pick up during the week, and this won't last very long, and I'll find enough energy, mojo to carry it through. As we were talking yesterday, I don't want the show to just to be a half-assed rehash of what we did for Andy Anders back in January. Meaning I don't want the same guests. I mean, what we talk about, not that much has changed for all those guests, and I don't want it just to be a talking show. I mean, uh, really, stand-up comedy is not something that lends itself well to this format. And although most of the people who love Christine are comedians, and a lot of them were on the show back in January. So I'm not sure what we're going to do yet. We're still looking at trying to get people lined up. And as I mentioned, I did nothing yesterday to try to work on it. My bad. Hey, I have no excuse except that I'm a lazy, tired, feeling sick motherfucker. That's my excuse. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. Anyway, my friend Gary Paul Corcoran has a special offer for his books. He's an author, who writes a lot about. He's a fiction author, but he writes a lot about things that have uh, that deal with social issues. And he's got two books out now: uh, Lipstick Warriors and Lipstick Warriors, Fall of Darkness. And it deals with the struggles of women's rights, particularly from the point of view of Afghan women, since we left Afghanistan and the Taliban started to come back in and take over again. Both books now are free to download. What's today? Until today, actually. Today is the last day you can download them for free. 2 free Kindle downloads, and you will be helping out uh, with raising awareness for women's rights everywhere. It's a good cause. Cost you nothing. Link is in the description. I'm just going to play a brief commercial. I'll be right back. Here is
Afghan's Lipstick Warriors, First Chronicle. Afghan's Lipstick Warriors, Darkness Falls. 2 rousing tales of love, war, and international intrigue written in support of the Afghan women. Since Afghanistan fell 1 year ago, every bit of tyranny and barbarism the world had expected of the Taliban has come to pass. Women shut off from education and meaningful employment, forced to wear burqas in public, and imprisoned for protesting. All of their hard-fought achievements of the past 20 years stolen away. Even the simplest freedom of movement denied them. Their status once again reduced to that of medieval servitude. With the click of a mouse, you can help author Gary Paul Corcoran and Afghan veteran Rob Williams make their free Kindle download go viral and reassure the Afghan women that the world community has not forgotten their grim fate. Afghan's Lipstick Warriors, First Chronicle, and Darkness Falls, free on Amazon Kindle, August 11th through August 15th. The link is in the description. We appreciate your support.
It's just simply GaryPaulCorcoran.com. You'd be doing a very good service, and it costs you nothing. Please go GaryPaulCorcoran.com and download both books. I appreciate your support in that. Where do we go today? My guest today is comedian Davis Sutton. I believe he's from Tampa, Florida. Hold on, let me nail it down for you. I think he is. I think that's correct. And somebody had written to me yesterday that they were on a show called The Hot Mess with him. And they said, I'm glad to see he survived that. I go to his Facebook page and there's a picture of him. He's kind of like sitting depressed in a hallway. It says David Sutton dying in the hallway after the hot mess. Well, I want to talk to him about that. It seemed, you know what? I love hearing about, comedy and how they got into it, but hearing about terrible, awful experiences on stage, that's more interesting to me for some reason. Maybe I'm a bit of a sadist in that regard. Anyway, David Sutton should be here at 10 a.m. Hopefully this week goes better than last week with the no-shows. Hopefully we won't have any no-shows at all this week. My guest tonight is James Balsamo, a filmmaker, made many films, got a lot of recognizable names in his movies. He seems to be a comedic horror movie guy. I'm not familiar with any of his films, but I know his latest has Tommy Chong. I believe it's got Rob Halford from Judas Priest in it. Might have Eric Roberts in. It looks like Eric Roberts has been in several of his films. And it would be good to get Eric Roberts back on the program and talk to him about that. Now we have something in common. So something to talk about as far as people we've had on the program and people who've been in the same movies. So he will be on with me tonight. But we did yesterday. I sent him his link for today. Now, let me back up. About 3 weeks ago, when he expressed interest in being on the program, I sent him to the calendar, and he could not figure out a very simple calendar and picking dates when to be on the program. So I finally offered him up a date, and then it was last night. For tonight, Monday the 18th. Clearly, Monday the 18th at 8 p.m. Eastern. And so I sent him links yesterday, And he wrote back to me, what time? And we remember 8 p.m. Eastern. Okay. So he was on last night waiting for me in the back end. Anytime you're ready. Like, it's for tomorrow night. Remember the date, Monday, the 18th. Because he originally wanted a weekend. And I said, we don't do weekends. Anyway, it seems like for a guy who's a successful movie maker and filmmaker and director, easily confused. That's all I'll say. So he'll be with me at 8 p.m. tonight, God willing, I guess. And that should be an interesting conversation about how you get these recognizable names to do independent films. To me, I think that's a huge challenge to get, people with name recognition to do independent films. There's a secret there. Uh, uh, People in the chat room. Good morning, Dean, and good morning, Christina. We're light in the chat room this morning, as expected. Most Monday mornings start out this way. I'm obligated right now to talk about Governor's Comedy Club. We are on the Governor's Comedy Club network. I was scheduled to be doing a bit of stand-up at the Jones Beach Amphitheater, Jones Beach Band Shell, sorry, in Long Island, New York, this Friday night, August 19th, which happens to be our friend Andy Andrews' birthday. Not that that has anything to do with it, but I was just thinking that Andy said he would be done with his chemo by his birthday. That's this Friday, so it looks like Andy made it through the whole thing. Going to try to get him on the podcast and talk about that, the podathon on Saturday. We'll see if that's doable. But back to what I was talking about, Governors Comedy Clubs. And this, we're going to go through who's on the list this week in Governors. In Levittown, the main room, main Governors Comedy Club in Levittown, Long Island, on August 18th, which is Thursday. Hello, my friends, with Pinky Patel special event. And that is in the main room, I guess. August 19th, Anthony Rodia special event. I think Anthony is there in the main room, August 19th and 20th, but they have it listed as two separate things anyway. So Anthony Rodia will be in the main room this weekend. Marty Caproni will be outdoors on the patio. Steve White in the Giggle Room. Steve White is a recognizable name. Stand-up showcase, Aragona Comedy presents outdoors on the patio, 8/20/22, which is Saturday. And then, I guess I mentioned Anthony Rodia special event in the main room again on the 20th, and Michael Loftus in the Giggle Room, a special event on the 20th. So that's what's going on at Levittown. Let's check out Bohemia. Bohemia has the same stuff going on. Something's wrong with their website. Yeah, something is definitely wrong with the website. This is the Bohemia location? Yes. Unless Marty Caproni's doing two shows, traveling. Oh, August 20th, McGuire's in Bohemia. Yeah. Marty Caproni. This is right, I guess. I'm wrong. So, yes, Marty Caproni will be at the main room in Bohemia on the 20th, which is Saturday. And Piggy Patel's special will be there on the 19th. She'll be over at the main room in the governor's location in Levittown on Thursday, and in McGuire's in Bohemia on Friday. That's kind of confusing. Stand-up showcase, Aragona presents on August 19th at McGuire's in Bohemia, and August 21st, Sunday Night Funnies at McGuire's in Bohemia. Now let's check out Belmore, final location. Be done with this. So, wow, it's Anthony Rodia's special event now. The brokerage in Belmore. Something's got to be wrong here. These guys can't be in all these places at once. Steve White on the 20th. I got to call them about this. This is a little confusing to me. If it's a little confusing to me, it's probably a little confusing to you. Maybe it's just the COVID is making me slow and dumb. August 20th, this one seems probably right. Charlie Buckey and Friends special event, which is Saturday night. And that's it. That's it for Governors. So I think probably best bet is to call them and get this stuff straightened out, because it doesn't seem like the calendar is it's a little confusing. That's all I'll say about that. Anyway, so as I mentioned, we will be doing a podathon for Christine Levine on Saturday. Still not at all sure what that's going to, who's going to be on that. It's going to be 12 hours. We're shooting for 12 hours. It might end up being only 10 hours, depending on how much content we can fill and how many people sign on to do it. So far, we've got an okay from one person, which is Billy Wayne Davis. Thanks to Dean O'Hara for reaching out and taking care of that. That's it. That's all we've got committed so far to do this thing. And I believe Billy Wayne was under the impression it was going to be Sunday when he gave us that. So, and it's changed now to Saturdays. A lot of things. It's not an easy thing to organize these things ever, but when you're feeling like I was yesterday, I am making excuses, but I felt like shit, and I didn't do anything. I didn't have the energy to even sit down at a computer or pick up a phone and start making any contacts. Hopefully later today, I'll get some kind of energy and be able to take some things on. And we have some friends helping us out, all that kind of stuff. So that's where we stand with all that stuff. What's going on in the world we'll talk about before. Davis Sutton, as I mentioned, should be here at 10 a.m. And Davis is a young comedian. Looks like he's had his first, how do I say, complete, total bomb experience, and was a little bit devastated about it. But he's been open about how devastating it was on social media. So that should be an interesting conversation, I think. As far as co-hosts and all that kind of stuff, don't think we're going to have any co-hosts this week except for Friday. Oh, Dean has asked to be on Wednesday again, and he's welcome here. But I think we're going back to not doing it with co-hosts. And getting back to where I started this off until such time as I really want and this is make me sound like the misogynist pig that I am. I really want a female co-host because I think it adds some contrast, and it let's face it, it's better for bringing in old pigs like me. Uh, the audience would much prefer to see a pretty girl than a bald man just talking. That's why. That's what I'm looking for. So until I get a permanent pretty face to be a co-host, or a pretty voice even to be a co-host, I'm probably going to be doing solo again for quite a long time. Jackie Martling will be with me on Friday. Haven't talked to Jackie on the air for probably about 2 months now, which is a long time to go in between having Jackie. He had been in the habit of being on the show every other week or every 3 weeks or something like that. It's been a couple of months now. He was having knee surgery, and I was waiting for him to recover a bit before having him on the show. And then I was talking to him yesterday, and he sounded good. He's doing shows up in Boston with Lenny Clark, and he's out doing shows again. So obviously his knee is good enough to do an hour of stand-up. It's good enough to come on a podcast. So he'll be on with us Friday. Now, I mentioned he was with Lenny Clark. Lenny Clark is one of my comedy heroes. And I said to him, talk to Lenny, to ask him, tell him I've been trying to contact him to get him on the show. And Jackie is kind enough to do that. He reached out to Lenny and said, hey, Matt Napo, he's got this podcast. It's pretty cool. I think you'll like it, blah, blah, blah. And also he loves you kind of in a very homosexual way. Maybe that scared him off, but Lenny said he only does. Let's check this out. He only podcasts he'll do are Joe Rogan and Bill Burr. Now that's some pretty high standards, isn't? And I don't take any offense to that. Obviously, I'm not in the league with you know, either of those guys, so I won't be getting Lenny Clark. He did say, maybe some other time, but no, he's not. He won't be here, which is sad for me. But I understand that. But imagine being in a position to say there are only two podcasts in the world I'll do, and that's Joe Rogan and Bill Burr. You got to be a pretty heavy hitter just to say that, just to have the confidence that the only two podcasts I'll be on are number one podcast on the universe as far as comedy goes, and the number two podcast in the universe as far as comedy goes. Those are the only two I'll do. Again, pretty impressive to just to be able to say that. And mean it. To me, that's pretty huge. So, bottom line is, I won't be getting Lenny Clark. Friday, when the show ended, and most of the show, I was talking a little bit about the Trump stuff, and I said at the end of the show, wait for the other shoe to drop. I was thinking he would be indicted by the end of Friday, end of business Friday. Did not happen. And I'm concerned. I'm concerned about this. What is, all the stuff that's happening and people guessing about what's going on rather than anybody really knowing the facts. And you'll see, I mean, Twitter, not so much Facebook, at least not my Facebook. I don't see all of the political stuff on Facebook that I see on Twitter, but Twitter especially, people are just talking like they know what's going on. And they can't know because the FBI, DOJ, are keeping things under tight wraps. But there's a lot of speculation. And for me, when we talk about the Espionage Act, and the FBI hasn't come out and said that. These are our papers, publications that are speculating this. Washington Post and New York Times and Newsweek. They're putting this stuff out there. And so when you look at that stuff, you have to say, well, Merrick Garland, the Attorney General of the United States, came out and said last week that nobody is above the law and there's equal treatment under the law. But Donald Trump walks free. Now, if you or I'm talking to people in the U.S. only, if you or I were under suspicion of espionage, we would not be going home at night. We would not be walking free. We'd be in a holding cell while an indictment is pending, or we would be indicted and we'd be in a holding cell with no bail set, especially if we had the resources to be a major flight risk. So I'm doubtful that any of these stories are true, or is one of two things are possible. Either these stories about the Espionage Act are not true, and top secret documents are not true, or Merrick Garland lied, and there is not equal treatment under the law, and people are above the law. I don't know which one of those are true, but one of those two scenarios has to be true. Either Garland lied to us, or the speculation about Espionage Act and top secret documents and all that stuff is not true. Because if any other person were found to have that, they'd be locked up right now. And so I was expecting an indictment by the end of Friday. It did not come, which deepens my skepticism about uh, all this talk about stuff. Now, if you're following it at all, the guy is ready for a fucking straitjacket. I mean, he contradicts himself with all the bullshit excuses left and right. I didn't know what was in the box. I declassified the boxes. Then he goes asking for the boxes back first. Then he says the FBI planted the stuff, but he wants it back. So the FBI planted documents that he had already declassified, and he wants them back. None of that makes sense. Now, we do know that this is factual, that one of his lawyers signed a statement that said he turned over all the documents months ago, and that turned out not to be true. So we have that, and he's trying to claim that he didn't pack the boxes, somebody, but he didn't know what was in them, but he declassified them, but he says they're his, and he wants them back. None of it makes sense, and he's ranting like a cornered rat. Like, that's all. He's in the corner. Walls are closing in, and he's just making up lies and seeing what will stick, throwing everything at the wall as possible to see what will stick. Problem is, his cult is regurgitating them just like January 6th, and they are becoming activated just like on January 6th, 2020, and looking of 2021, and looking to act out in violence. Now, the United States government is not a easy target for a bunch of radicals to take on. It's just not. This is not um, a small republic where a group of guerrillas can take on the federal government and wage a real war. They will be shut down. They will be acts of violence, random acts of crazies. But as far as an organized civil war, we saw what they are really. January 6th was the the best they could do, the best they could do, and that was pretty lame. Even though 5 or 6 people ended up dying, and for me to call it lame, I'm sure those people who lost people would be very offended by that. But as an insurrection goes, as a attempt for a coup, it was a very lame effort, militarily wise, very lame effort. If that's the best they can do, and I do think that's the best they can do, I do think the United States government has nothing to worry about. Nothing to worry about. They will be random acts like the guy who attacked the FBI office in Cincinnati with a fucking nail gun. This is how stupid they are. He was going to attack the FBI with a nail gun. He got shot dead. This is what we're looking at. I don't think we're looking at any kind of civil war. People keep talking about civil war. I don't think there's any organization there for it. What we have is a bunch of really stupid people who believe JFK Jr. is coming back, and I mean all the QAnon bullshit. But now they're reciting his lies, and you see people saying, "Well, he never told a lie in his life. He never told a lie in his life." It's like, really, are you going to go that far into bullshit land? Um, it's just, it's pathetic to see how deep cultism of Trump is running in America right now, and it's scary because people are going to remember this time as um, Americans being just really stupid. We're going to have a reputation for hundreds of years, if the world survives that long, as being the stupidest nation on earth. Not something I look forward to as being an American, somebody who's going to die here, having the legacy of America being people, not the dangerous evil that people that were represented by Nazi Germany, but the stupid people that drank the Kool-Aid in Jonestown. We're more aligned with those stupid people from Jonestown than we are from evil people. There are some people, I have to say, on the far right who are definitely treading in evil, but most of them, sadly to say, are elected officials. The Matt Gaetz, the Marjorie Taylor Greens, the Lauren Boebert, the Ted Cruz's of the world. I think those people are sincerely evil. Lindsey Graham, um, But I think the rank and file are just plain fucking stupid. That's all I got to say about that. Anyway, today's show is brought to you by True Fire. You want to learn to play guitar? Best way to learn, practice, and play is truefire.com. Online, you can learn at your own pace. I have courses, curriculums dedicated to teaching you at your pace and teaching you the right way. Truefire.com, link is in the description, and here's that thing.
Over 2 million guitar players worldwide learn, practice, and play with TrueFire. Our learning tools and massive library of video lessons will ignite your technical skills, harmonic knowledge, rhythm playing, and soloing chops. TrueFire's educators are the best in the biz, from Grammy Award winners to world-renowned artists. You'll have access to an unparalleled faculty of over 300 top-notch blues, rock, jazz, country, fingerstyle, and acoustic guitar educators. Using our desktop and mobile apps, you'll work with TrueFire's multi-angle video lessons on any device, anytime, anywhere. Integrated learning tools such as video synced tab and notation, slow-mo, looping, practice jam tracks, and many more handy controls accelerate your learning experience. TrueFire style-specific learning paths guide you every step of the way. Use our assessment tools to find your starting point, then follow our lesson recommendations and track your progress as you work through your personalized TrueFire study plan. Progress faster with private one-on-one instruction, group lessons, multi-track video jams, live streams, song lessons, student forums, TrueFire's Riff magazine, premium jam tracks, and much, much more. With thousands of 5-star ratings and reviews from amateur and pro players alike, you'll find yourself in good company with the world's most comprehensive guitar learning platform. Grab your guitar and ignite your musicality. Sign up free for an all-access trial today.
Yeah, invite musicality. I still don't know what that phrase means, but truefire.com, link is in the description. You know, I talk a lot about, the negative parts of the internet and how it's not necessarily good for society. But when looking at that commercial, it is clear that human beings are learning things at a much faster pace, and we have improved learning, I think, not too distant future. Um, Traditional schools are probably going to be fading out because I'm looking at that, and the way I learned guitar growing up is like fucking caveman inventing the wheel compared to truefire.com. And yes, they are a sponsor. And then I don't want to make this sound like it's a sales pitch. I am talking sincerely about human learning and the benefit of the internet for learning these things. Now, you talked about video sync tabs and looping and all these kinds of things that they offer. And to be fair, they're not the only ones out there, but they're the best because they're our sponsors. But they're not the only ones out there. But what that represents to me, compared to the way I learned guitar, the way I learned guitar when I was 5, 6 years old, went to a music store where a nice old lady sat down and told me how to hold the pick, how to hold the guitar. Now let's go to Albert's Book One or Mel Bay Book One and learn to read music note by note. And basically, here's the scale and all that kind of stuff. And it took a good 2 years before I could actually play songs. Now, in today's learn, and then when I got older, and was ear trained and able to pick off licks from professional musicians, from copy the stuff of the bands that I liked at the time. The routine was you'd get a vinyl record and hopefully a turntable with variable speed on it, and you could slow down the vinyl and just have to play the same segment over and over again, which is really difficult. You're taking a needle and putting it. So the laborious practice of that what took forever. Now what they have with video tabs synced and looping, basically it's telling you where exactly on the fretboard to put your fingers, the technique to use on that, and you can loop, you can pick out a certain segment and play it all automatically over and over again while you practice it. Excuse me. And so you see why we now, if you go on social media and you see a 4-year-old shredding like Eddie Van Halen or Joe Satriani or some master, you can see why learning has accelerated completely. Now, if you apply that to other disciplines other than music, I think that we are evolving in ways that we don't stop to notice as far as education in a big way on the internet, and it has improved greatly. Carl's in the back. I'm going to see what he has to say. Why don't you just come in on your own? You got to sit back and wait for an invitation. What's with that?
Yeah, but I don't want to be rude. I don't want to crash the screen. When I come in on my phone, it comes
Never
straight on
rude.
screen.
You're like a family member. You're allowed to walk in the room and say, hey, even in the middle of a sentence, it
Mother.
doesn't matter. How are you? Are you okay?
Good, pretty warm. It's a lot cooler today, actually, so I'm not quite as sweaty. But
Our heat wave on the east coast of America passed about a week ago, and it's been rather chilly here. Which it was surprising to see you still talking about heat wave over there. But has it broken at all? Is it down?
Today's the first. It's a little lower today, and I think we're getting storms tomorrow, Wednesday, and then it'll go up a little next week. But I think we're over the crazy shit.
Yeah. Well, good. It's good and sad for me. I hate to see summer go, but once that dog days of summer heat wave breaks, it starts to feel like summer's waning, and I hate that. I love summer. Summer's my season. Maybe
I love it too. But I had 3 months of sun as well before I came back to this one, so I've had a lot. I could do with an autumn now, a nice autumn with the leaves falling and getting a little bit chilly.
And you missed most of the heat wave because you were in South America, right?
Yeah, it started a
Yeah.
few weeks ago. It was its height a few weeks ago, and
I think it
yeah,
started
I missed
5 weeks
2 or
ago.
3 weeks. Yeah, and I missed the crazy temperatures.
Yeah.
But yeah.
What's going on with Dykes and Man this week? You're doing a recap of Edinburgh?
Fucking hope so. I'm gonna. I'm around, so
Yeah.
we'll ask him live.
I'm interested because I'm seeing a lot of feedback about people, and it seems like people went there with the intent of being outrageous to get publicity. Maybe that's a bad take on it. I want to get your take on it. But the guy, he's like my age, who whipped out his dick or something. But I think yeah.
Jerry Sadowitz.
So if you're my age and doing that, that's clearly is that guy famous? Because I never heard of him until.
Yeah, I haven't seen him too much. He's been around a long time. Yeah, he's got a big following, and the thing with this though, I mean, by the way, I was staying in my place where I was sleeping was right next door to that venue. But yeah, so he went on with Jerry Sadowitz. He went on one night from a 2 or 3 night run, and he said it went well, but then the venue banned him and said there were racial slurs, and he got his dick out. What I do know about him is that he's been getting either the real dick out or a fake one that looks real out for years, like 20 years, a long time. And in the promo for this show, he said he was going to do it. They booked him. That venue booked him, and they must know about him. It's a big venue selling, the tickets weren't cheap. It was one of their big acts, and you must do research, right? If you're a venue booker at the biggest comedy festival in the world, like just know what you're booking.
Do you think they really didn't know, or they were just trying to cover? They were lying about it after the fact because they were just trying to cover their
Probably,
ass.
but I don't know how many. I imagine they got a handful of complaints by people that just didn't know what the show was. Right? They just gone up to this venue. They've looked. There's 50 comedians on this month. Let's go and see that guy. And they've got, because if you he's got a lot of fans, but if you know what he's going to do, you're not going to care. You're going to laugh. If you're a random tourist that's just going to a random comedy show in Edinburgh, you're going out for a nice meal. Oh, before, let's go and check out this show. This guy looks cool. Look at his hat. He's got a hat. He's got a big following. Got good reviews. Let's go in here. And then he gets his dick out. So
Right.
apparently there was other stuff as well. But that's what I know about it. The venue shouldn't have booked him. It's their fault.
Well, I hate to be a cynic here, and I'll trust your take on this, but just to hear me out now. Has the venue actually made a statement? Because I'm thinking if the venue hasn't come out and said that the guy's banned and their reasons for banning it, then he might have made that, because it would be a
No, I
smart
think
move.
I think they've released a statement saying it didn't align with their values, which is the statement that places do release over here. It's like, this act does not represent our
Okay.
values.
So it's real. Because I was thinking maybe
Yeah.
he just canceled the show and want, because let's face it, if you're my age and you're not blown up yet, you're probably pretty desperate. If you're my age and you've been doing it your whole life and you're just desperate for stardom, it would be a good thing to cancel yourself in that way, to say, I did something so outrageous that I can't be performing.
I'm not aware of what kind of following he's got, but I think it's quite big. He just hasn't reached where everyone knows about him. But I think he's got a big. I mean, he's charging real money for tickets and people are paying it.
Right.
He's got on a national tour, all that kind of stuff. So he's obviously big enough to be selling out national tours.
Right. Now, but he's not the only one from Edinburgh who's kind of gotten some really harsh criticisms, though, right? I've seen at least 3 or 4 people who were maybe not like shocking or upsetting a venue and getting canceled like that, but some really hard criticism in the press, like.
Yeah, but what the fuck? What are people doing reviewing comedy anyway? Fuck off.
Right, I know.
This comedian wasn't clever enough for me. He's just some guy's opinion. It makes me angry. I saw a few things, right? There was one article that was going around. This show was so offensive, I had to walk out from the local paper. So what you mean is probably all the other people in the room were enjoying the show. You got offended as a journalist, and you went out and wrote an article about it. That's what they mean. And there was another one. There's a band called Cunt and the Gang. They've been around a long time. I knew about them after the Jimmy Savile stuff. They wrote a song about Jimmy Savile, and it was
A
called
good song or a
Sexy
bad
Kids.
song about him?
Well, I'll send it to you. It's kind of silly. The song's called "Sexy Kids," and the lyrics are "Sexy kids made me do what I did." It's about the ghost of Jimmy Savile. It's funny, right? They've released a couple of songs about the Boris Johnson over here. I think the latest single was Boris Johnson is a cunt. And they try and get it in the charts and stuff. But it looks like they've done a musical called Shannon Matthews, the musical. And I did post about this one. Shannon Matthews was a child that got kidnapped in the UK a few years ago, except she didn't really get kidnapped, which she kind of did. Her family did the press conference and they're crying like, our daughter, where's our daughter, and all this. It turns out, I might get the facts slightly wrong, but she was under a family member's bed, locked in a trunk. And they were just doing it to make money. Right?
I remember that story in The Guardian, yeah.
And so the Cunt of the Gang have gone up to Edinburgh and they've got a show called Shannon Matthews the Musical. So it's about that case, I guess. And I posted the article the other day where this disgusting evil act, I think they described that, this evil show that has sold out, and some people have given five stars. So what that journalist means is it's a very successful and funny show.
Yeah,
that's kind of edgy, I guess.
I like it. But if you don't have supreme talent and you're just trying to make it in the music business, you gotta have something that separates you. And being someone who writes music that is socially provocative and stuff, that's a good edge. So good for them. Good.
And they're funny. They've got a bunch of songs on YouTube like I brought a pedo along to five-a-side. That's another one. Like, I brought a pedophile to football. But the lyrics, they're just silly songs. Yeah, they're just silly songs. But they're funny. They're just funny. They do poke and prod and stuff. But yeah, it's a difficult one, Edinburgh, because it is a lot of there's a lot of shows with trigger warnings on. You've got to put a trigger warning on your show. The show I did, which was offensive comedy, one of them, and it says on it it's offensive comedy, but they still got an official complaint because it was too offensive.
Now those people need a fucking smack. If the sign,
they do.
if the bill says offensive comedy and you go there and you're offended, you're an asshole, dick, stupid.
Yeah, I went up the next night and I said, if you're in this audience tonight, or there's a writer from the Guardian here, please address all complaints to your mother's cunts. Now that might have got the show in trouble again, but I just thought that was the funniest thing to say. Like, stop. Yeah, if you know what it is and we're telling you, I don't even like the fact that people have to tell you. But now we're going to say, okay, maybe you think it's a family show on 11 p.m. It's going to be offensive. Yeah, there's no room for you as an audience member to. If you get upset, you need to leave. But there's no genuine. What can happen if you can complain? Nothing.
Why don't you show your bloody ass on stage so we can get some major publicity?
Yeah, I'll eat half a loaf of bread before I go on, and it will happen. In hours. Do you know what? Yesterday, I didn't accidentally. I thought I'm going to eat these real slices of bread. I'm going to have eggs on toast, but I'm going to use the real bread. And within 2 hours, I had a problem. So it's like, oh, fuck,
wow.
It really is that.
Bread causes bloody asses. I never figured that out. You know, I don't know what well, we don't need to go down this road, but I've had hemorrhoids in my life, but never really kind of was able to figure out the cause, because or any causation, cause and effect of why, because it seemed random.
Yeah, it's just gluten with me. I can eat some stuff, but a lot of it I need to stay away. Bread's the big culprit though, and I more or less stopped it in January. I think it was. It's been like 6 or 7 months, more or less. I'll make a mistake sometimes.
Wow.
Or even I have to, but yeah, it's not good. Yeah, but Edinburgh's largely, there's a lot of, try too hard to be progressive shows at Edinburgh as well. There's thousands of shows, so I don't think there's a lot of people going up there trying to be offensive at all. I think for the most part, people are just going up to do comedy and have a nice time. And some of the later ones, you've got so many comics on. Some they're going to be from every range, really. So yeah, there's a few shows that are going up. And Cunt and the Gang would have gone up there deliberately to cause a bit of a stir with it, but it's also going to be funny. So if it's still on when I go back up, I'll go and see it for sure. I'll make sure that's one of the shows I go and see. Cause
we need to get you like eating dead babies on stage or something. Something to make you blow up.
As long as
get canceled.
Yeah, but that would be the one.
Dead baby sandwich.
If we can get a chef that's good enough, isn't Jess good at painting fake food? Maybe she can make a real piece of food that looks like a dead baby.
Yeah, well, I could get Jess on that. If she can make fake food, she can make a fake dead baby sandwich, I think.
Yeah, it's made of like, I don't know, beef.
So, before you said, just real quickly, you said "fuck you" if you're critiquing comedy. Fuck you. Now, because music.
Well, I mean, I don't see the point in comedy journalism.
No, I get it. I agree with you. But I'm wondering, because in music and film, obviously critics are a big part of it. There are magazines like Rolling Stone magazine is just critique of music all the time.
Yeah,
have I not noticed? Have I not noticed comedy critique before, or has it always been there? It's
been there, but it's not as big as music or film. And in the UK, there's one major publication. I'm not going to say the name of it, but there's a major publication. And when I've made the mistake of clicking on it to read a review of a special or something, it's like it's just again, it's one person's opinion, and it's strange. Movie critics and music critics, it's always been quite an industry, though, hasn't it? And some are good, some are bad, some are, whatever.
Yeah, and it's always one person's opinion, but it's surprising how much weight some of them carry. As far now, they haven't like. And people are going to get on me because they're going to think I'm like being a proponent of a band. But I'm going to take the Eagles, the American band, the Eagles, who but soft, whooshy rock, a lot of it
Yeah.
countryish, but they were terrible as far as their criticisms, and all of them were negative, but they still managed to. Hotel California was one of the biggest selling albums ever. The Eagles' greatest hits was the biggest selling album of the 20th century. um
Yeah, I
so
don't think bad criticism can hurt a movie or music if people see it or hear it. Music, it's easier for people to hear on the radio, especially back then. If people like it, they're going to like it. Movies, I think it can be more damaging
yeah.
depending on who it is, because you might go, you know what, I'm not going to go and see that now. But I don't read reviews of films before I go and see them, because I look at the trailer and I'll hear about it and I'll make a decision based on that stuff. Because I don't want to be influenced by critique of
Well,
a film before I see
let me
it.
let me give
Afterwards,
you
I'm happy to go into it. But
let me share a movie critique. Have you heard of a film called the new guy the Nice Guys?
yeah,
You
for
have.
sure.
I didn't hear about it until last night. I was laying on a couch suffering with COVID a little bit, and I watched a movie on my phone called The Nice Guys. It's Russell Crowe and Ryan Gosling.
Yeah, I've not
Fucking
seen it,
great,
but I know the movie.
great movie. It's got everything. It's got Hitler. It's got Nixon. It's got
Perfect.
porno. It's got detective stuff. It's got it's just a really fun movie, and even feeling sick, I enjoyed it immensely. So,
Hey, wait, this is 70s LA, isn't it? Yeah, I know exactly. I was getting confused with another one. I went to the cinema to see this. I went to the movies to see this because I was getting into the history of LA at the time, and you have the Comedy Stores in it, right? They drive past that twice.
yeah.
It's all some crazy caper movie, but it's good. It's funny. The house
See,
party stuff.
if I were being really a pain in the ass critic about it, it wasn't accurate to 70s. Some of the references that they put in there were only a person today who didn't live in the 70s could have put in there.
Yeah.
That's all I'm going to say about it. It's just like, because having lived through the 70s, I was like, no, that's modern talk. And I'm not going to
Well,
say exactly what it
Deadwood.
was.
It's a bit more extreme, but Deadwood did that, right? It was set in the Wild West, and they would talk like people would talk today with the swearing and stuff. It was very dialogue was 2000s level.
Yeah.
Motherfucker, fuck you. It was.
But
So, yeah,
great
I get the
experience for
jokes.
me, especially feeling sick. It got me through the night, and I watched it on a phone like this for 2 hours.
Yeah, you know what? I watched it. I watched it at the movies, and I watched it during the pandemic as well. I went back to it and watched it again. It's a fun movie. It is genuinely funny. It's one of
Yeah.
the few modern movies that are actually funny.
Yeah.
It's just it's good.
No. My guest today is this guy Davis Sutton. He's a young man who he apparently had his first really traumatic, like terrible bombing
Yeah,
situation, and I've never. Well, I shouldn't say I was never public about when it happened to me. When I really had like one of those shows where I wanted to kill myself, I went back home and did my sulking in private. I didn't let the world know about it, but it's all over his Facebook page. And a couple of people wrote to me yesterday when they saw he was going to be on the show. When I published it, they said, "Wow, I worked a hot mess with him. Good to see he survived." And another person said, "That poor guy, what he went through at hot mess. I don't know how he got through that."
yeah. It'd be interesting to listen what it was. I don't know what kind of show it was, how long he was doing. But I've bombed in front of my friends that are comics, and then have to go and sit in the corner. And they're going to talk about it. But for the last time it happened, they left me alone, and I sat in the corner for like a good 30 minutes and just barely looked up.
Yeah, that was.
And then
that was
after
me.
half hour, I was like, fuck it, that was whatever. Let's get on
Yeah.
with the night. But I've also you've got to enjoy it as well. I mean, if it's the first one, then I can understand. I hated. Yeah, I remember some of the very early ones when I couldn't do certain lengths of time, and I thought I could, and it just was silence.
Yeah.
But
But there's a
you've
picture
got
of
to
him sitting in a
enjoy it.
hallway, like. like just like laying on the floor in the hallway, looking like somebody killed its whole family or something.
But you know, you're supposed to bomb, and if you haven't already, I don't know how long he's been doing it, but if you haven't already, then you've got to get one. You got to get one in. Get them in earlier rather than later, I think.
Yeah. Now tomorrow I got Tony Viagra on. Are you familiar with Tony Viagra?
No, I saw the name again. I've heard the name. I think I've heard the name again before.
You've had definitely, because he was on Stanhope not that long ago, which I forgot about until yesterday when I was putting the stuff together. He
Yeah, I
was on
probably heard them
Stanhope
mention that.
less than 50 episodes ago, so that's within the last year. He was on the Stanhope.
Could very well have been there, but I've definitely the name has definitely floated around at some point.
Yeah, he's an older guy. He looks older than me. He's probably older than me with like Coke bottle glasses. So, yeah, I don't know much about him, but I'm gonna do my research.
Yeah,
tonight.
I'll look forward. I'll have a little look as well, and I'll look forward to listening to that one too. I'll get out your hair in a couple of minutes before your guest comes. I just thought I'd pop in.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate it, because I don't, I'm suffering here. And you were right about doing a thing on Saturday, but that gives me one less day to try to get my shit together.
Yeah, well, that was actually Jamie suggested that. I was going out. I was trying to give him reasons of it being both days. I didn't really know, and then it got changed. So hopefully Billy Wayne Davis can do the Saturday, and I'll try and
we'll have him on for 12 hours.
Yeah, that's what we'll do. He can just get high and come on, take an edible, and we'll just watch him. But yeah, we can have a chat about what we'll do during the week, and yeah, try and make it a bit different. But it's how different is it going to be?
Yeah,
we can try and think of some things. But yeah, you're right. It's not much time, because I think for Andy we had a couple of weeks, right?
Yeah, definitely, and
4 days.
yeah, and those, you don't want the same people to do, because not only I feel like I'm imposing if I ask all the same people to come back on again, but it's like, what are we going to talk about now? We talk, not much has happened in the last 8 months that makes for enough conversation to fill time. I don't know, and the whole just sitting for talking for 12 hours is. I want to see something a little more. And again, I know.
Well, let's we can talk about it, but I think maybe we could we could break it up for all of us as well, rather than all of us always being on. We could all go away for an hour. I'll go away for an hour.
Oh, that's what I'm hoping.
We can leave a couple of guests
absolutely.
on. We can sit in the background, just mix it up a little bit, because it's going to be tough, especially my setup here. I'm really uncomfortable in the setup. So 12 hours being on screen. I need to get up and stretch and shout at people, shout at children.
Now I know Brett Brock had expressed to Christine. He asked her if she wanted him to do something. I want to try to incorporate. But I thought last night, why don't we just make it a joint venture, and so give him a segment to do something like that or whatever. I'll talk to him about it today.
I'm sure he'll be fine.
Yeah.
Maybe he wants to do his own thing as well. I don't know. I'm sure he'll come on. I'm sure Brock will come on. I think that's one thing we should have as a through line from January.
Yeah. He told me he was going to send me that thing that he did of me on the Podathon when I had him on. Just remind.
It took him 6 months to send ours to Jamie, and they're at Jamie's house now. So just remind him. It's just just need to remind him.
Yeah, I haven't talked to him since then.
He's got everything. So when you had him on a few weeks ago, didn't you? Or when I was in Brazil?
I think it was longer than that. Longer than a few weeks ago. I think it was probably 5-6 weeks ago. Yeah. I think it might have been Jess's first show.
Weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. Time for me has been weird. So.
Oh no, Kiara was still on, so it had to be at least 6 weeks ago. Yeah.
That's correct, because she was expressing how bored she was with your conversation. I remember that.
With just the conversation, she liked the art stuff. Yeah. Yeah, So Friday night, I had a solo gig, and I played in a bar full of drunks. Not full of drunks, about 20 people in a bar and me. And I like that, because that's my element. I love, because you know what? You can just start playing a song they all know, and all the drunks will sing along, and it's just like fun. But after the gig, I went to a diner and met some comedian friends, And you talk about just like wanting. I was in the corner, just feeling. I felt like Jake Danger Jolly on the podcast, where I'm getting beat up here, and I have no comebacks. These guys are all professional, and all I'm doing is just sitting there taking a beating. And I was just like, this was a bad idea. Be the one non-professional comedian walking into a room full of guys who are just like. It's like walking into a bunch of like the ring with a bunch of professional fighters, and you just never had a fight in your life. It's like, here you go. It was a really rough experience. I was the punching bag. It was not fun.
Did you get anything out of it? Did you get any good news? Good. Or was it just dinner?
Huh? What was that?
I don't know. I don't know. As you said, did you get anything out of it? Did you get any positives out
No,
of it?
I didn't get anything out of it. I mean, all those guys are, they're part of the local network. Some of them are national acts. I don't want to go name them, but for the most part, they all know who I am. They all know what I do. Some of them have been to my shows, which and they're kind of fans of mine. But it was just I guess having some raw meat at the table, like, because they're used to shitting on each other all the time. And now here comes the guy who's not part of the inner circle. Oh, let's all get him all at once. So, no, I didn't get anything out of it except abuse. It was. I know they do it with love, but after a while, it was just like I feel like I wish I had a comeback here. I'm like, I never felt so well. I can say one time I felt that stupid was on the Podathon when your friends asked me to do an English accent, and I was like, and it was after good 18 hours or something for me.
That. Yeah, that was on the second day, wasn't it? That was a rough time for us all for sure.
Yeah.
I'll get out your hair now, and if your guest doesn't turn up, I'll pop back in a bit.
All right, cool.
Things to do.
Yeah, we'll see if he shows up. If he doesn't, I'll probably end it early if he doesn't show up. So
okay.
Yeah, thanks but I appreciate you being around, and I'll be in touch during the week. Yeah,
let's keep in touch, and I'll see everyone Saturday for sure.
All right, I'm putting you out. I'm putting you out like a dog. Oh, I got him. See that one shot? I'm not so bad. Anyway, appreciate Carl stopping in. I'm going to contact Davis right now. And while I'm doing that, I'm going to play a little bit of music or something. That's what I'll do. I'll play a quick song while I go try and get in touch with Davis. What am I going to play? I'll play this one. Let's go here.
I'm the kind of guy who likes to sleep in late, and I'm the kind of guy who doesn't like to wait. If you can handle that, we'll get along just great, 'cause that's the kind of guy I am. I'm not the kind of guy who likes to start a fight, but I've never been accused of being too polite, 'cause I got strong opinions about wrong and right. That's the kind of guy I am. And I'm damned if I do, I'm damned if I don't, I'm damned if I will, I'm
That's exactly how I feel right now. Looks like this week is starting pretty much just like last week went. Um, doesn't seem that Davis Sutton, who bombed at the Hot Mess show and was beating himself over about it, beating himself up about it, is going to show today. Now, my patience with being hung up like this by guests is definitely running thin. But also the fact that I feel like shit today, and I would not even have done a show today. I would have canceled if I would have known he's not going to be here. Now that plays into my um almost being inclined to rip the man a new asshole, young man a new asshole. I'm not going to do that, but I feel like it's getting that time. Now, tomorrow, I know my guest is going to show up because he's been very vigilant about getting back to me, saying he's looking forward to it. Tony Viagra is my guest. He was on episode 451 of the Doug Stanhope podcast. If you want to familiarize yourself with Tony Viagra, he'll be with me tomorrow. I don't know what to say about this. There's constant people choose their own dates and then come up. They're like the Donald Trump with the excuses of I overslept, I forgot about it, wasn't on my calendar. My mom died. Literally got one of those. My mom died, and I hope I hope it wasn't a lie, which is a weird thing to say. I mean, I'm not saying I'm. I really hope your mom died, but if you're going to say your mom died, I hope you're not lying about it. Anyway, so that's where we are today. I don't know what else to do here except drag people into the studio. Tonight, James Balsamo, who again is a film director, will be with me. I'm going to look up James and just try to promo that show just a little bit before I go here. James Balsamo, his IMDb page. I know he's got a regular website too. His regular website, James Balsamo, the movie database. James Balsamo. No, that's not him. IMDb. But I know he's got a regular website too. I want to check out. Anyway, I'll go to his IMDb page. James Balsamo is a jack of all trades, a songwriter, an actor, and a sculptor, but most importantly, a filmmaker extraordinaire. From time to time, he was from the time he was just a lad, and like so many others, James was fascinated with the horror genre, attending his first horror. Where are we? Attending his first horror convention at the age of 8. Youngster James knew he wanted to. We knew what he wanted to do when he grew up, is follow in the footsteps of star slasher icons Freddy Krueger and Jason Voorhees. Fueled by his ambitions, James convinced his parents to enroll him in acting school. As a student in many prestigious New York acting schools, including Lee Strasberg, James' passion for film and acting continued to grow. A New Yorker all his life. He's actually from Long Island, I believe. Balsamo continued his professional career as a professional performing arts high school in New York City. James grew up, maybe he is a city guy. Because I saw 5 towns on his resume somewhere. Yeah. He left Shakespeare in Tights at the door and spilled big screen blood all the way through 5 Towns College. 5 Towns College is the Long Island college. So that's what led me to believe that he's from Long Island. His films. Now, you know what? Let me look at this. I'll find out. I'm going to do it the hard way. Yes, I could do it this way. Give me 1 second here. Carl Mann is back. You're back.
I am back.
You are back. I thought you were gone doing weird things. Anyway, looking at some of James' films, his most recent film is Alien Danger, which stars. No, there's more than this. It stars Bill Victor Austin. James himself is in it. Sherry Davis, Tommy Chong, Tracy Coco. Tuesday night. Sean Kenny, Tracy Burr, and Rob Halford from Judas Priest is in it. Now, this is and he's got lots of these films. Now, a lot of the names I'm looking at looks like children or offspring of famous actors. Kristen Dunst's kid. Um, people along those lines, people who have famous parents, famous actor parents. But to get Tommy Chong and Rob Halford in a independent film, and he's got many of them, that's not an easy thing to do. I mean, first of all, these people who have SAG cards are going to want, SAG money for it. You got to pay spec and a daily. And with a cast of probably, let me see how many people are in that movie. Looks like 45 people in the movie. If you're paying everybody in the movie and you're paying for production and all that kind of stuff, even a small budget production like this has got to run into the tens of thousands of dollars, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars. So good for him. And he's got like 15 films like that under his. Now, I understand that, at least from looking at his IMDb page, that he's using the same actors in several of the movies. Eric Roberts, who's been on my program. Eric Roberts, who said I was the best podcast host that he's talked to.
Eric Roberts has done a lot of cocaine.
Yeah, he does a lot of independent films, but he's been in his a lot. So I did not know that when I interviewed him, but now at least if I get him back, I'll have some common ground to talk to him about. Hey, I know that James, and how do you get involved with him and that kind of stuff. But that is an accomplishment. I don't want to minimize that. I mean, for me, just getting name recognition on the podcast is difficult. Did you hear about Lenny Clark? I asked Jackie to talk to Lenny Clark, and Lenny Clark, he said you'll only do Joe Rogan and Bill Burr.
Yeah, I mean, what does he need? What is he? He's probably at a point where he doesn't need to promote anything, right? He doesn't really need to promote anything. It's just
yeah,
what
no,
he wants to do.
Yeah,
it's a nice.
But that's
nice
like saying, I will only eat caviar that is for monarchy. I mean,
yeah. Well, listen, if you've got to that place in life and that's what you want to do, I love. Yeah, I just do this. I work on a Wednesday.
Yeah.
For 2 hours.
That's a great place to be. Now, I know a lot of young people, especially comedy fans today, probably aren't all that familiar with Lenny Clark and his work. To me, because in my day, you know what? I'm going to put this out there. People probably say he could have been Seinfeld as far as name recognition and money. Now, Jerry Seinfeld's a billionaire, and Lenny Clark could have been that. He had the #1 sitcom that debuted against Jerry, and he beat him the first year. Totally crushed him the very first year. Called Lenny. It was on CBS while Seinfeld debuted on NBC, same time slot, and Lenny crushed him. And then Seinfeld moved to Thursday nights, and that helped launch his show. But up until that time, Lenny had the #1 comedy sitcom. Yeah.
I love, what I loved. I don't really know a lot of his work. I'll be honest with you, but I know about him. I've seen him interviewed on Rogan, maybe on Burr as well. I don't know, but I've heard people talk about him for years.
Yeah,
and that Boston scene, right? There's a documentary. I can't remember. Is it When Stand Up Stood Out or something?
Yeah,
it's a really good documentary about like the ding ho and all that stuff. That sort of people getting paid in coke. Wild. Yeah. So I love that kind of history. But I'm going to go and dig into some of his stuff as well, because even though some of it might, contextually I might not be as into, I don't know, but I'll give it a chance. But that shows like that Lenny thing. I've just Googled it. I loved all that stuff as a kid because we had 4 channels. I didn't have satellite TV as a kid. So when on Channel 4 we got like a US TV show coming, it was something different. Even if it was Roseanne, what's the Home Improvement,
Right.
that kind of stuff. And that was my Friday night treat as like a 12-year-old. I was like, I'm watching American comedy. This is amazing. Or Whose Line Is It Anyway? Or the Canadian stuff, the Kids in the Hall. I know Andy knows some of those. Andres knows some of those guys, right? From Kids in the Hall, I think. But I can't remember. But there were 8 or 9 shows I'd watch, and because they looked different, the way the TV was shot, the way the film was shot, I guess, just looked different to British TV. I loved American comedy, and I found it funny as well. So a show like Lenny, just looking at the intro on Google Images, I would have watched it for sure if it had been over here.
Yeah, and for my first introduction to him, he did it. It was on one of the very first Rodney Dangerfield specials on HBO, and he was probably the dirtiest comic I had ever seen.
I think was that the one Dice was on?
I don't know if Dice was on that one. No, maybe
I know there's one show with 4 or 5 like big comics on.
It's entirely possible Dice was. I know. I remember Dice's one. Dice's appearance, his first appearance on the Rodney thing, but I don't remember if it was the same show. But I remember Lenny blew me away with that stuff. He was a skinny stud. He was a coke addict, so he's going to be skinny. But then when he was on a show called The Job with Dennis Leary, it was Dennis Leary's show, but he was a main player in that show. He was a big fat guy. He was like obese. He was 350 pounds. I was like, I couldn't believe that's the same Lenny Clark, because he was a young stud, and now he's this big old fat guy, and now he's skinny again. To me, that's you don't see people generally when you get fat, you don't get skinny again. Like that.
It's tough. I'm telling you now, I'm not. I've got a gut, obviously, but it's been a tough year for me just to reduce it a bit. And I've been exercising. I exercise. I try and sort my diet out, but it's tough. I do give in. But yeah, to be someone who's 300 pounds to drop all that weight, it's so impressive to me. But,
so that's an accomplishment in itself. But he talked about actually going to Colombia to a cocaine factory and waiting for them to produce 2 pounds of cocaine.
That's that's better than Costco, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's better than going to buy a lump of cheese for this big that's more expensive than you think it is, because you got to pay tax when you get there. We have in the UK, you have to put VAT when you get to the till. But to go to the factory is pretty good. I may or may not have tried cocaine in Brazil and Peru over the years, and that's amazing because it's way better by the time it gets to the States or Europe. This is something different still. It's way closer to what it's supposed to be. But going to the factory, wild.
I did a lot of coke, and I'm surprised I never got like physically addicted to it. I did a lot for a couple of years. Back when I was doing my radio show, I was around it a lot, and all my friends did
Addiction's complicated. Addiction's complicated, isn't it? So you don't know always if you're physically addicted to it or you're mentally, or it's just socially.
I never enjoyed it. I think that's why I didn't get addicted to it, because I never enjoyed it. I did it because there was so much peer pressure around. Everybody was doing it.
Yeah. I had one summer. I mean, I worked behind a bar and I overcharged somebody by 2 drinks when I was like 19. And the next day he came in and I told him, and I gave him 2 beers free. And as a reward, he said, "Come with me into the toilet," and he gave me a bump coke while I was working. That's the first time I did it. And then a few years later, there was one summer where a friend of mine, we were paying for some of it, but we were either getting it heavily discounted or free for a summer, because my friend who worked at a place where you would hire vehicles from was loaning one of these guys a vehicle every so often to go and collect whatever he was collecting, which I think was, a reasonable amount, I would think. And in payment, that would be free. So I was working with him, so I would get kind of peer pressured into it. It was a fun summer, but by the end of that summer, I was kind of done. And then since then, it was very sporadic. Like 3 years later, 6 years later, once a year here and there.
Right.
But I did enjoy it though. I definitely enjoyed the social part of it, but it's
Well, I enjoyed the first few minutes of it, but when it came down to
when it's 4 a.m. and you're trying to go and get more for the second time. That's
well,
the bit that
I had
isn't enjoyable.
a tenants who married couple and I was a bachelor at the time, and they were dealing it. What is that? A Pooh Bear?
Cute little teddy bear, yeah.
Little Pooh Bear. Well, yeah, I had a married couple who were living directly upstairs from me, and they would have parties over there, and people come in to score at all hours of the night. So there was always a tray on the table with lines on it, always. And so ended up doing it a lot, but I didn't like what it did to my jaw with the constant,
Yeah, none of that's
seeing.
good. And when you see when you don't take it and you have a night off and you look at your friends, that was one of the first times I was like, really? Is that what we're like? Everyone's in the corner like,
Yeah. And so Saturday night, we had a sub drummer, and it was sub drummer who was 7 years younger than me. But I used to play with him years ago, and he was great. He was a great drummer. I played one of them. He was 12 years old. We used to sneak him into bars because he was that good, and he would be doing the gig. He wasn't allowed in the bar, but we would get him. We would sneak him in, and he'd be playing gigs with us. He was great, but he was a cokehead. Then he became a crackhead and a bit of a meth head. And Saturday night was the first time I played with him in 30 years. And after the end gig, I said, "What happened to you, man? What happened to you? You're like a skeleton." Like he was never the guy who was. He played with his brother as a leader in the band, and his brother always yelled at him, "Play lower, play softer, play." And I was yelling at him, "Play harder, bash those fucking things, man." And then after the gig, I said, "What happened to you? Nobody ever had to tell you in your life to play louder ever before tonight. Now, what happened? Oh, I haven't played in a bunch of years." But I was looking at his teeth and he was a skinny frame of a kid, and he looks older than me.
Sad.
Yeah, drugs killed him. Drug took his life away. Definitely.
Yeah. I've known some people that have gone down. They're not in a good place because of too many years. I was smart enough to look myself in the mirror and say that's it. I mean, it wasn't it totally, but for the most part, that's not something I enjoy doing. It's definitely not on a regular basis. So yeah, things happen from time to time, but it's very, very rare for me.
And yet you see guys like Andy, who, aside from the cancer, aside from the worst cancer you could possibly get,
aside from the terminal disease,
the worst cancer you could possibly get, he looks pretty healthy for a guy who's done all. I mean, he's on a par with the people who've done like drugs constantly for 40 years.
Some people can be fine into their 60s or their 40s or 50s. It normally catches up with you at some point, but it just depends when. But yeah, if you get a good run, then you're fine. If it starts fucking with you in your 60s, who cares? Because a lot of other stuff is going to start fucking with you then as well. So yeah, he's cool. He's got a great brain on him, and all the stream of consciousness stuff still comes out there. So
yeah. Now I could have sworn that he said that he would be done with the treatments by his birthday. His birthday is this Friday.
Yeah, I think he's done.
Wow.
I think he's done or close to done, because on the live thing, I think he was talking about it. It was late for me, so I can't remember details, but I think it was more or less done or very close to it.
That if that's the case, and he's totally cancer free right now. I mean, I know I put on an optimistic face right from the beginning, but that's a fucking miracle, because generally,
because we lied to you, Andy. We thought you were dead.
Yes, I did. But that cancer is literally the worst cancer you can get, even worse than having a brain tumor. Because I know people who've had brain tumors who survived. But none of it's good. So now each point, I don't know what his detail is, but from what I understand, for the most part, then you have to have regular testing. It's more and more regular, and then maybe annually, then every 2 years or whatever, just to see. And I think the important one is 5 years free. Yeah.
Because to come to is it go into remission? No, you go out of remission. Get it back, basically. When you get it back, the further time away from it, the more time you'll it's less likely to come back right away. I remember my dad had to have this big 5 year thing a few years ago, and Yeah,
But you factor in the worst cancer in the world and the fact that he has treated his body like a toxic waste dump for 40 years.
yeah,
Yeah,
to get to this point is phenomenal, and because I don't know all the details, but there was a chance that the operation got rid of it, right? And the chemo was to treble check. Let's do this
yeah,
just to make
yeah,
sure. So hopefully those two things together would have kicked it into the fucking half or
amazing.
whatever the expression is. Yeah,
You guys led a very eventful life, which
yeah.
goes out without saying. But to me, that's a hell of a story. You got to write a book about him. There's a movie about him, but it's never coming out.
It's
Never.
a
The Paul,
documentary, isn't it? Or
yeah, the Paul Provender documentary about him.
you know,
I don't know if it's ever going to come out.
maybe
I mean,
maybe he's waiting for the answer to the cancer part, and he'll stick that at the end. Who knows?
apparently there's supposed to be a screening coming up, and they were kind of planning on doing a screening at Panamint, but whatever.
Yeah,
It's
I
just-
don't know. I mean, again, I from what I know about filmmaking, it's so difficult. I don't know whether this has been done for a while or what, but it's just sometimes things sit in the can for a while before they're even screened anywhere. Or
yeah, when I had Paul
Trying to sell
Provender
it.
on, he was talking about comedy specials, and he did what his pet peeve about comedy specials is when they do an audience cutaway to get an audience reaction as if that's to tell the people at home this is funny, laugh now.
Yeah.
And I thought that's not necessarily always the case. Sometimes you need a cutaway because you're cutting like 3 minutes out of a program, and you don't want to make that cutaway. You don't want to make the cut obvious. So cut to the audience laughing, and now it doesn't matter that he's on the other side of the stage than he was just a second ago. You don't notice that because you went to the audience. But if
Yeah,
you
I
kept it
know.
on
I get. I'm sure that's part of the reason as well. But I know there are a few comics now that don't like the crowd because they want it to be like an experience of going to the club. So if you're kind of looking at the comedian all the time, one way of doing it, I think Burr might have done it at the Albert Hall. I might be making this up. Is cut away to a shot from behind, so you can kind of see the theater. You can't really see individuals, and then he can be chatting, and you cut back. So you're not really aware of. You could have a close up, so you kind of disguising where he is. Because it must be tough if you shoot even two shows, right? Even continuity between two shows must be difficult. You got to wear the same clothes for a start.
right.
If you've taken a bite of a fucking hot dog before you've gone out there because you need something and some sauce has gone down you. I know now you can kind of probably put that out in post, but it's a pain in the ass. It's a pain for someone's got to sit and do it.
Yeah.
Continuity in itself is tough, and he always noticed with putting the water down on the stool in the right place. Stanhope, I think, uses the cup. The last couple of times he's had the cup, so you can see the drink. It doesn't matter where the drink is if you shoot it twice.
All right. Yeah. Yeah, he said that on Ryan Roach, I think the guy's name is. Stanhope was on his podcast. It's a podcast where he was saying some mean things about me, by the way. But he was talking about why he doesn't use a glass anymore. He uses a cup that you can't see what's in there because for continuity purposes, you don't want it to be up here and then down there the next shot and all that stuff.
When you think about that, specials themselves, it's so hard to make it like a comedy show because as well as having all the continuity stuff, you've got to edit it so it looks like one show, and it's just different anyway because most comics aren't used to fucking cameras flying around the place. But yeah.
I noticed two things in the Bill Burr special. Is that shot you were just talking about from behind, but it's like a rock star thing because the spotlight is so bright that it's just silhouetting him, and all you see is just like bright light in your face. It's like a rock star.
Is that the Albert Hall one? Yeah.
No, it's the Red Rocks.
Okay, so I still haven't watched that. I'm gonna watch it tonight. I just haven't had time with traveling everywhere. I'm gonna watch it tonight. Red Rocks looks like it looks like a beautiful venue, by the way. Red Rocks.
It is. It's a rock star. It's a music venue. It's huge. Yeah. The other shot they use is from the top of the widest possible far angle from the top of the venue down to the stage. So he's like he's like this big at the so you can't tell what's going on anyway. So that kind of helps for content, making cuts seem like they are a direct cut. But yeah, a lot. And if I look at some of the best comedy shows I've ever seen, even the best comics, they're not always like completely flowing for the full hour, and so there is time you need to condense and cut stuff out for the sake of people at home. Um, the quiet
For
moments
sure,
in
yeah. It's
between.
for sure. The only thing when I saw film Paper Tiger in London, that show that went out was more or less to the minute what he did. Like he came out and did 1 hour 15 and fucked off, and that's how long the special was. The only thing they changed was cut out, and I think it was at least 90% of the show that I saw, because I remember I think they kept a heckle in there and that kind of stuff. The only thing he changed, he dropped a bit at the end, which was the closer, and so it seemed that it ended weird. And it was a personal thing. He said later, yeah, he didn't want his daughter seeing that joke years later. He just generally, I don't know, I can't remember what it was. Maybe it's something about his family, and he just changed it at the last minute, and they put in a new joke for the closer. So it was interesting to hear like that kind of stuff as well.
Closing is seems to be something that, at least from a lot of specials. Now, I'll qualify this by saying there are too many specials, and I see so many specials that so I
Yeah,
can't. But what I'm seeing is people not really caring about the close. It looks like comedians go out there, they do an hour, and it's sometimes often what I'm seeing is they're closing on the weakest part of the show, and they just say, "Oh, that's it, that's my time," and they just put the mic down or drop the mic and walk off. And it's like,
yeah.
wait a minute,
I think closers are less of a, especially on specials. Yeah, I've known years ago the close was normally a longer bit, normally, right?
yeah,
Or it's a callback that was really had a really big hit.
right, and it tied the whole thing together.
I was nearly sick. I was nearly vomited on it.
Oh,
I
that
had
would
to
have been
swallow it.
good. You're just trying to be like Andy now,
Oh my
vomiting on
god!
my
It
podcast.
it almost just came out to swallow it. That was gross. Yeah, no, I agree. But in some way, unless it's really weak and shit, then it's bad, right? But in some ways, I don't care because it's got to change, right? And I don't mind if a comic has a
No,
joke
the
at the end that
public
isn't the
doesn't give a
best one.
shit. The public doesn't give a shit
Even I don't mind really. Sometimes it just depends. It doesn't have to be this big grand thing anymore. I don't think, but it should be strong at least.
yeah.
Be a good joke. I don't know. Louis did a thing where he would work some material for a while, and then he would take his closer and put it at the front, and then he would do that for a while, and he would take the closer and put it at the front. So his
Yeah.
thinking was by the end of his 2 years, he's got a special full of closers, so
Yeah.
they're all high level. I guess it's another way of thinking about it, but yeah, I think there are too many
Interesting.
specials, but that's just the nature of the industry, I think.
When Louis C.K. was at Governor's at brokerage recently, and I was thinking, well, that's a really small room. That's got to be like a great place to see a comic like that. But last week on Twitter, he was playing some show somewhere in the Midwest, like 3 or 4 at a club like that size, like not a big club, and some
Yeah.
comedian who probably has like 150 followers, so he's like open mic level comedian or something on Twitter, was bashing him like, look at this, and it was like really bashing Louis for playing this club, like how big he must have, see how far
You
he's
know what?
fallen.
Next month he's selling out arenas in the UK.
Right.
So let's stop the silliness. And he's doing a world tour. He's losing.
And also the fact that he was playing this club 5 nights in a row, and even if it's a small club, 150 seats, 200 seats, he's selling it out 5 nights in a row. You can't even get in there as an open mic night. You have no place to be.
He's not doing that because he has to. He's doing that because he wants to. He probably wants to go to a town and go, and that's a nice club. Do you know what? Maybe I want to do a smaller one. Maybe I can't get in the theatre because it's busy. I'll do a run here. It's all his choice.
I just want to work. I want to work stuff out, and a small crowd is where I'm most comfortable working stuff out.
And he's been doing a lot of podcasts recently with Joe List because he made the movie, right, which I haven't seen yet, like 4th of July or something. So they've been doing a lot of podcasts around New York, and they actually did get him to talk about it on one of them. I think it was Yanis Pappas or something, about the impact of the cancellation and what it's done to his career. And he says, you know what it took away from me? When you get put at the top of something, even when he was at the top of like Hollywood's darling comedian, he knew that was going to end.
Yeah.
So he never let it get too much. And when it did go away, he was like, well, okay, that's gone then. And that's good because I can now focus on just comedy and just do it the way I want to do it. I can go back to clubs. And he's looking at it as a good thing because he can go back almost to his roots of comedy while still doing what he wants. Because he's, you know, the stuff that he puts out independently, he makes all of that money back now. So
Right.
he makes what he wants to make. Anything extra he puts into a project like a movie. And then he'll just keep recycling that round. He'll do the things he wants to do rather than get into this weird top of the mountain place where everyone's sort of, oh my God, it's Louis. How are you? Look, Hollywood.
Yeah. You know, and there are still people who just are never going to let him live
Yeah.
down that whole thing, which I don't want to go rehash.
I mean, the low level comedy community in the UK is still the same. If I were to put out public, I might, by the way, I'm not sure. I might go and see him in October here. It depends when I'm around. If I put that out, it's like, I've got tickets to Louis C.K. It'll be, you're going to see a sex offender. This person supports evil men that are keeping women down. It still comes up now. So you're never going to change their minds.
Yeah. Do you have mutual friends that hate each other in comedy? That totally hate each other? Because I'm seeing more and more of this on Twitter. I'm looking at dynamics of people, cliques of comedians and all this, and I see people who are they have they're friends together, but you see they have mutual friends that hate each other, and I'm like, wow, that's really
well. I
in the
know.
business.
I've known comics before that I've given a little bit more time to that my really good friends in comedy give zero time to, and they'll yeah, if like an article comes out about them, they'll believe everything in the article rather than speak to the person. But you know, that's a complicated case actually, because I think this person's also a bit of a dick. But yeah, I in some ways, but not really. I mean, we tend to, you know, the comedians I'm really close to, we tend to hate the same people. So
yeah. Well, Whitney
but some of them will give more concession to those people publicly. Some of them will, because they want gigs, they don't want to upset the apple cart, whereas I just won't.
Right. Whitney Cummings just came out with a new special. Apparently, somebody was calling her brave, or some again, like probably an open mic or a guy who's just above the open mic level. Now he's getting some that he was calling her brave, and it looked like Erickson was kind of mocking the guy for calling her brave, and he was like putting her down, and then I saw Brendan Walsh commenting on it, and he was saying, here, bravo, bravo, and a bunch of people were applauding her, and I'm like, I know Erickson and Brendan Walsh are good friends. Am I reading this wrong? I don't even know what the controversy is about her now, but
I don't think there was a controversy. Obviously, I think it looked like that Erickson was just going, "Oh, come on, comedians aren't." She was doing this thing where comedians are really important to society, and he was saying, "No, they're not." I think it was just like, "Shut up!
Oh yeah,
you're not being brave. You're probably, you know, you're a multimillionaire. You're one of the most successful women in Hollywood, like behind the scenes, and you're a comic." He's probably just saying you're not that brave. I think I don't know. I don't want to put any words in anyone's mouth.
No,
I think it was just
I
almost
think that was
the
gist of it, but he was aiming it at her, even though it should have been just at the, because it was, I don't think she was saying she was brave. I think it was the open micer that was kind of.
I think there was a clip. I think it was a clip of her talking about how important comedians are.
She was talking about how she didn't choose to be the voice of whatever of
and probably saying
conscience.
you're not the voice. Like probably. I don't know. I think it's a nothingy thing. It's just someone, you know, whatever. I don't have any.
Well, my take
problem
on courage is if you get up with the microphone one time, you've displayed a lot of courage. Just to do stand up one time, to me, and I've been in show business for 50 years. But for me, if you do stand up once, you're a courageous person.
There's a lot of people who criticize comics who never get on stage. even to do an open mic, because that first one is generally terrifying. What I'd say about Whitney Cummings, I don't know too much about her, but she's had a big foot. Not she's got big feet, but she's had one foot firmly in Hollywood TV shows for years. She's developed a lot of TV shows and all that, so she's had to try and keep Hollywood on side. But she still says wild stuff publicly quite a bit. And like, okay, that's fair enough. And there's some great episodes with her and Tim Dillon where he's just said to her on air, he goes, "Look, you're an aging hag. Hollywood is dead. Get rid of these." Like just, and they've had these 2 or 3 hour conversations where she's going, "No, but Hollywood's still important. We can make TV shows." And he's like, "It's finished. They're over. They're all pedophile." You know. But it's just funny. She still will have those conversations publicly where a lot of people who are still, I guess, developing TV shows in Hollywood wouldn't say a word. They wouldn't say anything controversial. But I think she still does. But I'm not either way. I don't really mind. But
you know what gets me confused? Christopher Titus, he was over at Edinburgh. I think he just did his last show in Edinburgh last night.
Oh, okay.
He's pretty big. I mean, as far I know, he's had his own television show on national TV, network TV here. So I would rate him as pretty well known, pretty big in the comedy world. Yeah. But I see him getting into these Twitter fights with guys who have 4 followers, 5 followers, and he gets into long, prolonged political arguments with people who. And he's elevating them, in my view, because he's got whatever 150,000 followers or whatever, and this guy who was 4 followers gets into a fight with him. All of a sudden, it's like taking this nobody and bringing him up on stage with you.
Now listen to me. Who else gets into fights on Twitter? Not always. Sometimes with random people that might argue with them. Do you know anyone?
Yeah, me. But. But I'm not elevating people who are far below me. That's the point. I mean, sure. That's what confuses me about Christopher Titus. Like,
but I think it's
you see me argue with somebody who has more followers than I do.
I think it's addictive. If you've got any following at all, or any kind of famous at all in any world, I think it can be addictive. I mean, you're seeing that criticism straight away, and if you take it that personally. I think there are people that do bite on it and do whoever they are. It could be someone with 4 followers or a bot or a Saudi bot or whoever it is, and you're going, "You motherfucker!" Retweet them, and someone's going to follow them now. I don't know why I've never really done it. I may do it in the future, but
I've been good for 2 weeks. For 2 straight weeks, I have not. If I put something out and somebody just wants to give me shit, I just let them say it, and I just don't pay any attention. Or I don't give them any feedback.
Maybe I heard someone on a podcast at one time give good advice, and I took it then before I had 50 followers, and I think it was let them scream into the abyss. It's better. It's better for everyone to scream into a wall, because most of them are looking for attention, especially if they're really coming hard. Most of them.
Yeah. Craig Ferguson.
Block.
Yeah. Craig Ferguson has three points, he says. On the internet, he said, you have to ask yourself this. Does this need to be said? Does it need to be said now? Does it need to be said now by me? In other words.
I mean, we can all take a lesson from it, because we all tweet I tweet absolute bullshit sometimes. Like, just, I'm eating a sandwich. And then I'm like, why am I telling anyone this? Look at it's like Twitter is, unfortunately, it's a lot does just need to be tweeted, especially with arguments. I think Twitter, I cultivate like a nice, for the most part, is stuff I want to see. Sometimes I'll see arguments or things that I really disagree with. And I think last night I typed an answer to something and then I deleted. I just didn't press through. I was like, nah.
Right.
Come on.
My biggest thing, and I think you're probably aware of this, is that Donald Trump, to me, is my trigger point, because he represents to me how unfair the world is in so many ways. Well, that a brat who can just complain the loudest will always get preferential treatment.
I get it, and also he's a local guy, right? So he's been the piece of shit locally,
and he ruined my life.
He
directly ruined my life at one point. Directly. When I was first married a young man, I was working in a music store, and he ordered pianos on credit from my boss, who for Trump Plaza, not Trump Plaza, Trump
Did he
Taj
not pay
Mahal.
for the pianos?
He didn't pay for them, and then he refused to pay for them. And when asked, he was kind of sued. He kind of said, "You know what? I have an army full of lawyers that will drag this thing out." So the guy lost. I think he lost $750,000 in his investment of pianos that he ended up giving to Donald Trump. And
Well, I
Trump
didn't
never
know this
paid
till
him.
later about him. I didn't know this till much later about him, but I guess that was his MO, right? That was his business. And
Yeah.
he was in with the mob for concrete or whatever. If you wanted anything built,
Right.
Trump
So
was kind of involved in
my
that as well.
boss had to go out of business. I lost my
Yeah, I
job
get it.
directly because of him.
And then
So
then you see him become your president.
not only that, but that nothing. He never gets in trouble for anything. He could do anything. He's right when he says, I could shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue and never get in any trouble for it.
Do you know, who knows what's going to happen with this stuff, right? But there's a part of me that thinks your best outcome is he's not going to run for president next year. That's the best. Maybe not. That might not be true. You might get into some serious trouble. But if there's a part of me that thinks people should steady on, like he's going to prison, all this, just relax.
He's not going
maybe the best outcome is that he's not going to be a president next year.
There's no way he could ever go to prison because I want to see him indicted. That's what I want to see him. But I know that he could never go out of prison. I have to say goodbye to Govs really quick. But he